It's 8:15. Now, firefighters from across the UK have been helping the rescue effort in Turkey following the aftermath of the earthquake which hit more than a week ago.
4 firefighters from Cheshire made part of that team, and they've been speaking about how they tunnelled through the rubble to save people. Andy Gill has this report.
Rescuers pull a woman from the rubble of a collapsed building near Gaziantep in Turkey. In a cramped tunnel, and with the risk that aftershocks could bring it all down on them, they get her onto a stretcher and out. Among this team was Dan Reid, a Cheshire Fire Service crew manager from Penketh.
So it was a really small space, so there wasn't many people that could fit in that space. So it was a bit of a team effort, you know, passing the rubble back in buckets in a bit of a chain, using small hand tools to break through the wall. A lot of it you were upside down as well in the tunnel.
4 firefighters from Cheshire went to Turkey as part of the International Search and Rescue Team. Andy Clark, based at Chester, says pictures on TV don't prepare you for what it's like when you get there.
The conditions with the dust getting into your nose and your eyes, the smell as we went through the days got considerably worse.
A photo shows Andy's legs sticking out of a tiny gap in the rubble as they looked for possible survivors. When you're in a tiny space, a dangerous space like that, what's going through your mind?
I think you're just thinking of the positives, the benefits that can be achieved, but we'll only take risks to save lives, and the point of this deployment was to save lives, so I was taking those risks to go into these small spaces, knowing that yes, the worst could happen.
John Monaghan, who's also based in Penketh, says they had to bend the rules they'd normally stick to here to get people out.
He could have collapsed at any moment, and you knew that going into it, but the search was more important at that time than our own lives.
When you get someone out, when you rescue someone, what's that like?
Oh, there's total happiness on everyone. We found an old lady, she was 91, and we got her out of a window. We made a ladder out of a fence, we climbed up. You wouldn't be able to do that in the fire service, but there you had to do what you had to do over there.
The 4th member of the team was Ian Wilson, who's based in Lymm. We've heard the ordered long, arduous hours. What keeps you going?
Coffee. Coffee and the morale of the team.
The Cheshire team helped rescue 8 people in Turkey.
Seeing Turkey the way it was, I don't think nothing could pay for that. It was absolutely devastating.
Andy Gill, BBC News.
I am very pleased to say we've got more of the team, not that particular team, who were out there helping people. Jim Davidson, Lindsay Silsky. Have I got that right, Lindsay?
Shelsky.
Shelsky, I'm so sorry. And also rescue dog Davey is here as well. So good to see you all here. Do you want to just tell us a bit, Jim, about the work that you were doing out there?
So we deployed with UKISR team, which was a 77-strong team. It's what's classed as a heavy urban search and rescue team. So that's classified with the United Nations as a response to a disaster. And so our mission was basically to get over there as quickly as we can, and then to set up with the command structure, the logistics, and basically our base of operations, so that we can get out onto the ground as quickly as possible.
Can I ask you really like a sort of a human sensibility question? When we see these pictures, and indeed just a second ago looking at those pictures, for those of us who've not been there, it is still staggering every time you see it. What about you and your first impressions? I appreciate you're trained and you're there to do a job, but you're human as well. Yeah, so I've been in the team just under 20 years now. I deployed to Japan post-tsunami, and the scale of it is quite easy to kind of overwhelm you. So on the first day when we actually went down into the town, I've got members of the team that are fairly new to it, as in this is their first big deployment, and the scale of it was large. So when we arrived on scene, we actually, instead of starting at the top of our search sector, I put them in at the bottom of the search sector, which gave them chance. So as we're kind of hot-footing it down the road as quickly as possible, we can, it gives them a chance to absorb what's going on. Because when we're searching for people, you're looking at sort of like the situation, you're listening for sounds, and if you drop someone into that situation too quickly, it's going to overwhelm them. So on that walk down, it gives the team a chance to basically just absorb it all in.
It's getting a lie of the land, isn't it? just to kind of absorb that periphery.
I mean, what you don't want to do is you don't want to put the team into a situation too quickly that's going to overwhelm them. You need the team to be working as effectively as possible for as long as possible.
So, Lindsay, when you arrived with Davy... who's very chilled, might I say. Is Davy tired, or is he just very, very relaxed?
I think after 10 days of go, we're now sleeping a little bit. The first 3 days he was there, he did not stop. It was 40, 50 searches, just next one.
And just paint the picture for us and our audience about, you know, what that looks like. You're with Davy, you let him go, and he does what?
So each time we turn up to a search sector, I was on Red 1 with 4 teams within a much wider team. Our team leader, Jim, Chaston, he would say, OK, now the dog goes. He gets unclipped off his lead. He scours the rubble, searches in every void that he could possibly find. And if he does locate life, he barks to let us know that there is life within the utter chaos and devastation. On the first 2 days, the most important job for us is to go through as many search areas as physically possible, as many as the dogs can do, as many as the team can do. We then mark them up for any other teams coming on the ground so that we can perform physical rescues. On the very first day, Davy located a missing person, as did the blue team. And they were quite easy people to get off the rubble, remove some debris. We put our smallest team member into the void. She was able to just remove that loose debris off a lady, as did your team, and we was able to get them out within an hour. So.
And how many days in after the earthquake was this?
This was day 3.
Right, OK.
Day 3.
Were you, if I understand it correctly, you were also one of those who went inside one of those voids?
I was, yes.
So can you explain that? Because for a lot of people, they'll understand the work you're doing and the nature of that work, but that feels like almost like a step beyond. So you're in a place, you know someone is deep within. Can you just talk us through that?
The first rescue that I was a part of, the team had gone up. I was catching the team up because I was on another search with him. We got given the area, and we was told by locals that potentially there's somebody inside. We put the dog in. Then the team was able to make contact. A girl called Sarah on our team. Brad followed her shortly behind, along with Steve and Dave. Not least Dave, our other team member Dave. They went in, and we realised very quickly that the gaps were so small, we needed the smaller team members to go and be able to physically fit into those holes. So Sarah and I was able to get contact with the casualty, get into the void where the casualty was, and with some very simple just bolstering, you know, with the chisels and hammers, we was able to take the debris off her that was trapping her. After we did that, the rest of the team was able to do a very simple pulling system, so we could get her on a stretcher, round some corners, and pull her out to daylight, where she was met by our team doctor, Amelia.
Well, Jim, I mean, when hearing you give that, to be honest, quite a straightforward account. You've done it in, you know, I'm thinking that is an extraordinary thing you've done, and I know you're all doing extraordinary things, but have you been able to process that in any way? And you referenced this at the beginning, didn't you? Your concern for the welfare of the people you work with. Have you been able to process it?
The first time I actually saw the lady come out alive was on the BBC. The only time I had seen her, and it was just the fact, the sheer look that you had a crew walking past at that time. So I hadn't seen the lady in daylight. I'd only ever seen her covered in rubble, do you know, and trying with sort of a half head, you know, trying to pull her out. The first time I actually saw her was on the BBC footage.
And how did you react to that?
It's all a bit surreal still at the moment. When we guys are there, it's a process. We are there for one thing and one thing only. We have the most amazing team, and I know the chiefs have come on and the Foreign and Commonwealth Office have come on and said, this is a great team, but when you are with that team out there doing the job that you're doing, it's truly humbling to be part of that team.
And Jim, you know, we can We can talk about saying, oh, how are you? And we've got those pictures of the devastation out there. But it's not who is suffering more, because the role you and your team is doing is so important. They need to be protected. They need to be kind of, as you said, not overwhelmed and be able to process this.
Yeah.
And now's the time, now you're back. Is there a downtime? Are you expecting to be redeployed?
So we have a downtime through work that is basically agreed by all of your chief fire officers and obviously your stations back home. Bearing in mind that while we've been over there, the stations that we predominantly work for, our workplaces, if it's the medical side of it, they've got to cover the kind of the slack. So it's not just, it's the whole massive team approach. But we get some time off. The groups that we kind of set up already, you know, yesterday morning, as soon as I woke up after getting home, you know, there's a message from one of the team just saying, oh, we did something a bit special. And it's like, yes, you did, you know, and it's just like, but now we need to just take it steady.
I love the understatement.
Have some time.
Yeah.
I love it. Can I just say as well, is it hard to leave? Because you've, as you say, you've found people, people no one thought they would after such a long period of time. Is it? I know you're tired and you've done your job. Is there a bit of you that thinks, so, you know?
The only time any member of our team had moans or downtime was when they said, we're finishing now. It was absolutely the correct call from our team leader, Dave O'Neill, who led the team tremendously. But the thought of then having to, move away, and the decision was made because the rescues at that stage was being made by the diggers. The very, very last moment, as we was leaving the ground, another team came over to say that where Davey had indicated on day 3, they'd managed to get the diggers in, to save this gentleman alive. And that gave us the boost that we needed again. But leaving is very difficult.
Well, when you leave,
very difficult.
When you leave, Jim, isn't that the moment you kind of think, or you've been told, this is no longer a rescue, this is a recovery operation?
There are phases to it, but what you must always understand is that there are people that can survive, and there's always that miracle story where someone, if you put a set phase on something, there's always human nature someone will survive longer.
And there's always hope.
There's always hope. And so while we're out on the ground, it was really difficult to kind of, if we got to a site and we checked it with the dog and we checked it with the equipment, and at that point there was no indication, and we can't, unfortunately, because of the scale of it, we can't stay to recover a deceased person. We have to go for savable life. But you would have that discussion, with the interpreters we work with. You'd have that discussion and say to the people, don't give up, keep digging. And we're in this area, we're going to be working in this sector. And if you then get something later on, we'll come back. But at the moment, we have to move on. And it could be a very difficult sort of discussion to have. But the interpreters that were embedded with us, and another chap called OJ, who just came on the first day and offered his assistance. And he stayed with us. He stayed with my team for 3 days. And each morning, he'd just come straight back out and meet us. And this is just a normal guy off the ground. He lives in Istanbul. He drove 12 hours to just come and just to do something. And, when we're talking about going down the tunnels, this guy went into the tunnel. He's got no training. We're trained for it. We select our team members quite harshly to prepare them for these kind of conditions. And this guy stayed on site for 24 hours until the rescues were completed. He'd been out all day with me, and then when my team finished, and this is it, when you talked about the difficulty of stepping away from the job, someone said to us, the red team's coming on, or basically the night shift, what are we going to do? And it's like, we're going to leave scene, and we're going to go straight back to the base of operations, and we're going to get our heads down, because we need to be back out at whatever time they tell us to be. And he just turned up and delivered. I mean, since leaving, I'm still in contact with him.
Is that?
That's him. That's OJ.
Well, I think one of the things, and I'm so pleased we have you here this morning. There are a lot of unsung heroes who are not getting attention in this crisis. Can I just say, Davey has been absolutely out of control this morning. It's been
terribly behaved.
Really.
Really? Davey, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a real example. I mean, you all must be exhausted, and I hope the downtime, is good. Oh, he's up.
Oh, he's up again
now, Davey. You can go. Thank you so much.
No,
good luck, and good luck to all of your teams as well. Thank you.
It's
got perfect timing.
Now he's looking.
Now he's looking. It is 8:30. We're with you, of course, till around 9:15. Then Morning Live takes over from us on BBC One. Kimberly and Rav